Just people can criticize people for being atheists. Why can't atheists criticize people for being religious? Whenever I tell people I am an atheist, they tell it is bad and I am committing a sin to God by not believing in him and I would die in hell and it is not too late to change. However, when I say that I don't believe in God because there is no proof of his existence, I get told that I shouldn't people because of their religion. Basically what I'm saying is it is a bit hypocritical. Because to me either we both can criticize each other fairly or we don't criticize each other at all. Edit, I didn't expect this to blow up like it did. But thank you for all the advice some of you have given. Because many are delicate little snowflakes who are frightened by even the slightest hint that they may be wrong. Something victim complex. I've been to multiple churches and they all like to portray this narrative. The world hates Christians and you must be brave and fight back type shit. Most of us atheists just think of any religion as an idea, one that is unsupported by evidence and should be discarded into the bin of human history. But religious people think of their religion as a part of their and their family's identity, if not their nation's. When someone rejects their sincerely held idea, it is like we reject them, their family and their view of society. Our existence is a criticism of their sincerely held idea. Plus there are strong cultural supports for having faith which is seen as superior to skepticism. In the US I hear I don't care what your religion is but you have to believe in a higher power. Being atheist is portrayed as a moral failing. I genuinely believe that at a certain point being devout bleeds into being delusional. There's a point where people forsake all sensibility and give in to the myth so completely that their reality is actually altered. They don't live in the actual world but in a skewed version of it, like the overlapping center of a Venn diagram. I have never met a devout person who wasn't absolutely cuckoo. You can be having a normalish conversation and then bam, Bible babble. And they won't let it go either. Not until you agree with what they're saying. I think that criticism of atheism is born out of superstitious fear, whereas criticism of religion is a criticism of the fear itself. Those are very different things and need to be treated as such. You'll go to hell if you do not believe contradicts God in itself. Quoting some Greek guy. Live a good life. If there is a God and he is good, he will reward you. If there is a God and he is not good, he is not worth worshipping. If there is no God, you lived a good life. And #X200B. The two statements of God is all good and if you do not believe you go to hell contradict each other. Here's the real deal. If you live in a place where there is a dominant religion, then you are a minority. When you are a minority, this kind of thing happens all the time. The reason they get to criticize you is because their demographic is the dominant demographic. Their ideology is the dominant ideology. If you go against the dominant ideology, you are a weirdo. It's uncivilized to go against the dominant ideology. It's rude. It doesn't matter what the dominant ideology is. If you go against it, you are the bad guy. This is 100% correct. Being in the majority doesn't mean one is right, but it does mean one can frame the dialogue. Because I don't wanna become what I dislike about theists. Well, in the Western world at least, we atheists absolutely can criticize people for being religious. Shoot, we do it around here all day. Of course the people we criticize might clap back at us for doing so exactly the same way that we might clap back at them if they say that we're morally rotten or going to hell or whatever. As with all things, if you go looking for a fight, you'll usually find one. Who cares? Don't go looking for fights and you won't find them. If an adult believes in Santa Claus, do you spend an amount of your day convincing them otherwise? Just move on with your day. I mean, it sounds like they're asking him and he's just answering honestly. It sounds like you've never dealt with someone like this in your family or friend group. I knew a guy that would constantly call me morally wrong among other things just cause he found out I was an atheist from someone else. I blocked him after he said, "Why can't you just let people be homophobic?" It's especially challenging because he's part of my friend group and I'm in multiple group chats that I actually like where he randomly decides to talk shit on atheism. These people exist, and at a certain point you're gonna snap and at least try to explain why they're so fucking wrong. If you're anything like me, that is. Man will never be free until the last king is strangled with the entrails of the last priest. Dennis Diderot. The thing I hate most about being an atheist explaining why we believe the things we do is considered a criticism of others' beliefs, even when we're clearly only talking about ourselves. The thing I like most about being an atheist explaining why we believe the things we do is considered a criticism of others' beliefs, because if anyone gets offended by us saying I don't believe God because there is no evidence, that person is clearly insecure in their belief of God, which is why they view it as an attack. My mum is a born-again Christian and is always banging on about religion to me. I'm not allowed to talk about atheism the same way. To be fair, their argument falls apart with the slightest push. I remember when my atheist dad died and some priest was in my mum's house talking about the funeral. I mentioned he was an atheist, so the heavy religious stuff wasn't overly necessary. The priest got angry and told me off. I thought my dad's just died and this man's come to my house to have a pop at me. I wanted to punch him, but I suspect that wouldn't have gone down too well. Probably good you didn't punch him, but what the fuck? They really can't even muster up the self-awareness to imagine if one of their Christian friends/family members were put to rest in the Islamic or Buddhist tradition or something. They'd cry blood murder that this isn't what they believed in, and so on. Religious people are all bunch of pussies, change my mind. Because they think it's their right exclusively to judge and condemn others. Whenever a religious person asks why don't you believe in God, I always reply, which one? If they're intelligent they'll realize the implication.